Well, good morning, and I'd like to call to order this Planning and Development Committee for the Thursday, July the 12th, and certainly welcome everyone in the chambers this evening. This afternoon, sorry, this morning. I'll get it right. I get so used to saying the evening, I forget where I am. Anyways, the next item on the agenda is declaration of pecuniary interest, and I'll remind every member of your responsibility to do so. And then this morning we have one delegation, and that's Deloitte on the Project Innovate presentation, and Kara is going to do an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome everyone today, and thank you for committee for this time to talk about Project Innovate. I said what you have in front of you may look like a small report because I do work in the planning department. We do usually have thicker reports that we present to you, but for me it really looks like it is a pivotal moment, I think, in Bruce County. In 2016, we developed the Economic Development Strategic Plan for Bruce County, titled Find Yourself in Bruce County, and in that, we set a priority of business development. And that came about through our review, which highlighted as a region, we could be doing a lot more to create opportunities around small, medium enterprises in Bruce County, and with regards to our strengths around our clusters that we have here. In November, we brought forward a project plan related to Project Innovate, and at that point in time, we had the offer from Deloitte, a very generous offer to support us in helping move this work forward. Deloitte has taken us through to phase 2, which is the discovery phase of the project, and has started off with work with our local CAO group in order to look at innovation within the public sector, and then we moved that work to highlight what could be done in the industry, and we worked with a great group around the table that helped lead discussions on progress and where we are today. And I just want to thank those that are in the room that have participated in that work over the last several months. So with that, I will turn it over to Daryl Stock, who's a senior consultant with Deloitte, and also Kevin Hemmel, who is a consultant with Deloitte, to present to us today where we're at with the draft strategy for Council's consideration. And then once that's done, we'd be happy to have questions, and then there's a staff report to help move this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kara. Are we going to put the clicker? Does this work? Yep, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you for the kind words and the introduction, Kara. First, we would like to welcome all the members of council and all the other guests today. Thank you very much for your time in this process and joining us here today for the production and the culmination of a lot of hard work, and today is a great opportunity to present what we have been working on over the past 8 to 12 weeks. Secondly, before we get started, I'd like to thank the County of Bruce for giving us the opportunity to, in collaboration with many other stakeholders, develop this regional innovation strategy, which will hopefully be the guiding document through the innovation transformation of the region of Bruce. So, through a 12-week process, and with the contribution of many stakeholders, the Project Innovate team was able to identify many opportunities that are available for the region. They're able to identify what challenges exist and the key objectives to address these challenges. And to add in addition, time-bound activities that would be required to address these objectives. So through our primary and secondary research, we identified 3 main challenges for the region that are associated with labor, the availability of labor, innovation and incubation and commercialization of ideas, as well as collaboration, and the network of support for the participating stakeholders within this network. So with these 3 specific challenges, creating a starting point for our strategy development process, we were able to identify 8 specific objectives and 8 priority initiatives to achieve these objectives. More information on these objectives and priority initiatives will be highlighted throughout this strategy presentation. Over the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll walk you through an overview of the process and how we got here today, what the current competitive landscape for the region looks like, how we collected the information to develop this regional innovation strategy, and who was involved in the process, as well as looking at how we, and as a group, have defined strategy and how we worked our way through the strategic choice cascade, a framework that was leveraged to support this process. And then we'll conclude with the next steps and how we'll move forward with the Project Innovate. So, to go back to this start, why are we here? Why did Bruce County decide to engage with Deloitte to develop a regional innovation strategy? Well, we as a group believe that Bruce County has a unique opportunity to build a truly sustainable energy supercluster and utilize their current regional assets to diversify their economy into alternative industries. If there's terminology that might be ambiguous, we're hoping to clarify here. And we'll start with supercluster. A supercluster is a geographical region that is home to an especially strong industrial cluster or clusters linked through shared reliance on specialized inputs, which includes technologies, talent, infrastructure, and more. So with this definition in mind, we believe that Bruce County represents a transformative global opportunity to become an energy supercluster, and thus led to our governing thought for this regional innovation strategy. Our developed overview and overarching thought guiding this strategy development process was the following: to build a diverse collaboration network that advances Bruce County as a global leader and national center in energy production, research, and next-generation technologies. Many of the themes and topics that you see in this governing thought, collaboration, energy production, research, next-generation technologies, will be extrapolated in the ensuing sections of this strategy, where you'll see more information on it. Prior to diving into the development of the regional innovation strategy and how we created this document, we wanted to ensure that we set the table with a current state analysis. We know that there's been many successful innovation initiatives across the province and across the country that have already been launched and are currently operational, but we want to look at what are the region's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and help us validate why we truly believe that Bruce County is primed and ready to join this innovation movement and become a national and global leader in energy production, research, and innovation. The strengths of the regions that were identified included the region's reputation, the multi-year partnership with Bruce Power, and the available locations for building development opportunities. Alternatively, the weakness that we as a group identified and that must be addressed include the absence of a local university or limited relationships between labor markets and local colleges, the infrastructure to attract top talent, and the collaboration in the region to support the entrepreneurial activity. With these, we also identified main opportunities, which include the number of job opportunities that will come available in the next 20 years within the region, the community involvement and the local government support, as well as the opportunity to leverage the insights and the knowledge gained from the many innovation programs across the province and country that already exist. The threats that we recognized in the region included the current reliance on a single industry or organization at the moment, as well as the current aging population and workforce. So after completing this current state analysis and setting the table for where we are today, we wanted to leverage this information and compare and contrast that to what other case studies are out there and see who faced similar challenges on a similar scale. We reviewed multiple case studies, but have presented 4 here from the perspective of what these regions or locations did, why and how they did it, and what the benefits they saw from doing what they specifically did. So we've included a brief summary information on this slide, but detailed information of each of the 4 case studies can be found in the appendix of the strategy document. So in the top left, we looked at a region in the US, Charlotte, North Carolina, that has created a collaborative energy sector anchored around multinational organizations. If these examples seem relevant, that was the point. We wanted to look at other locations and opportunities that have faced the similar challenges. We also reviewed a region in the US that created a regional workforce strategy to develop strong talent pipeline that supports the needs of the local employers. From a regional and innovation perspective, we looked at Communitech in Kitchener-Waterloo, and finally, also looked overseas in the UK at an energy-specific innovation center, which helps us compare and understand how they discover, develop, and deploy energy innovation. So, with all of this groundwork and research that has established a foundation for our progression and direction, we then move specifically into the strategy development process. The components of this process included multiple working sessions, stakeholder interviews, weekly status updates, multiple case study evaluations, and environmental scans. These are the steps we took to create this robust regional innovation strategy. To provide the structure and the framework towards developing the regional innovation strategy, we utilized a framework called the Strategic Choice Cascade. This framework was developed by Roger Martin, who's a pioneer in strategic thinking, an author of the book Playing to Win, and a previous partner at Deloitte. This framework has been utilized by multiple Fortune 500 companies, and at its core, the essence of it is that it reinforces the idea that a strategy is a set of interrelated choices that will uniquely position an organization or region like Bruce to create a long-term sustainable advantage over their competition. We leveraged this framework in both of our working sessions. It helped us facilitate the conversation and make the difficult choices, which ultimately drives our resource allocation, our investment decisions, as well as sets our performance expectations. With that in mind, these are the choices we've made. We always begin to work our way through the Strategic Choice Cascade framework by beginning with defining our goals and aspirations. This is where we will begin our choice-making process, but it's also where we aspire to end up based on the choices that we make in the following sections. Notably, this is one of the more difficult sections of the Cascade to gain consensus on, but certainly one of the most important, as it creates the foundation for our future direction. The goals and aspirations that were established during the strategy development process were the following: to increase the economic diversity of the region, to grow, attract, and retain talent locally, to anchor collaboration between industry, government, and academia partners, to promote and emphasize the importance of research, to be environmental by design with regards to our actions and implementation, and to improve the infrastructure to help enable these goals. We also want to create a shift in the cultural mindset to a more collaborative and inclusive culture, and be recognized as a center of excellence within the energy sector. Fairly lofty goals, I'd say, and each of these goals contribute to a specific component of the governing thought, which was established at the start. Once the goals and aspirations for the regions were established, we needed to identify who the key stakeholders were and how would they be involved in the process, and highlight what the needs of each of these stakeholders were and how would they be impacted by achieving these goals. The key stakeholders that were discussed and identified, including academic institutes with universities, colleges, high schools, grade schools across the province and country, as well as small medium enterprises who are looking for access to talent, capital, ideas, and working spaces. Also, large enterprises who want to collaborate and build strategic partnerships. Government institutions who can be, among other things, advocates for legislative support. We also discussed the underrepresented workforce, which includes women, Indigenous communities, the young entrepreneurs, among others. Unions supporting their members in terms of training and educations will also be important, as well as community service and business organizations who work to promote positive economic development and improving the standard of living within the region. As we continue to make our way through the strategic choice cascade, we have now established our goals, who the stakeholders are, and how they will be impacted. We then need to make the choices on how we are going to differentiate the region to create the long-term competitive advantage that we desire. The 7 differentiators that we established include focusing on early education to promote employment opportunities that will exist in the future. We want to develop cross-functional promotional and marketing material to communicate the benefits and assets of the region. We want to be deliberate with our regional acceptance and integration programs, and we want to build training opportunities that don't only rely on academia, but promote the private and public sector training as well. We'd like to have a centralized skills training facilities that aligns with the needs of local industries, and create mentorship programs that support networks to help incubate ideas. And we want to establish a collision network to help facilitate the collaboration between the people and the community. This brings us to an important point within this section of the cascade, and that is that if we know that these 7 differentiators are going to be how we will win and how we will differentiate the region, then we must establish key metrics to manage and measure the performance of each of these choices. Examples of these metrics are included on the bottom right-hand side, but must be attached to each one of the choices we've made. With a clear understanding of what our goals are, who the impacted stakeholders are, what we need to do to win or differentiate the region, the next set of choices that needed to be made revolved around how are we going to configure or organize the region to ensure that we can execute the how to win choices established on the previous page. So in order to execute the how to win choices, satisfy the needs of our established stakeholders, and achieve the goals and aspirations that we established, we need the following: a platform for a shared services network, a regional collaborative labor management system, a robust internal industry training program, a mutually beneficial partnership with Bruce Power and other regional anchors, a cultural network for all community members, and improved infrastructure to attract and retain top talent. As we get to the final step of the strategic choice cascade, we must establish a prioritized set of initiatives. Winning strategies always balance informed choices with timely actions. So what do we do next? These priority initiatives, found on slide 18, are broken down into short, medium, and long-term initiatives and are the actions required to ensure the region is configured properly, to execute the how to win choices that we made, to satisfy the needs of our stakeholders, and to achieve the goals and aspirations that we set out in the first section of this strategy. We get into additional detail in the following section regarding the immediate next steps, but this slide provides a holistic overview and direction on the initiatives required to create the sustainable competitive advantage the region of Bruce is looking to achieve. To summarize the process, a significant amount of information has been presented and a significant amount of work has gone into this strategy. It's the summation of 2 full working sessions with more than 20 stakeholders, environmental scan, multiple case studies, which have formulated this regional innovation strategy, and as mentioned, will be the guiding document through the innovation transformation that will occur in the County of Bruce. So in order to achieve these goals established and meet the needs of the stakeholders identified, we need to execute on the how to win choices by configuring or establishing the critical components in the region, which are developed by executing our 8 priority initiatives. An example of this implementation and planning process has been completed for the first priority initiative, but this process of implementation and planning will be required for each of the 8 priority initiatives. Moving forward, each of the 8 priority initiatives need to address the 6 key focus areas for implementation, as seen on the left-hand side of the slide, and converted into a time-bound and actionable roadmap. The first initiative, Establish Project Innovate Task Force, is outlined in the following slides and provides a framework for the first step required to drive the innovation agenda within the region and address both the challenges and the opportunities that currently exist within Bruce County. On slide 22, for the first priority initiative, establishing the Project Innovate Task Force, we have identified some of the keys to defining a task force structure, provided an example of a sample task force may look like for the region, and some additional guidance regarding leading practices for the task force team resources. On the following slide, slide 23, we have included a description of the roles and responsibilities of each of the potential task force members that would be included in this strategic priority. On slide 24, we have answered the 6 key areas for implementation and plotted the next steps and required activities on a sample roadmap on the left-hand side. The information that is shared on this slide and the previous 2 slides can be used as an illustrative example and will still need to be finalized by the core project team. In conclusion, we'd like to say that in order to build a diverse collaboration network that advances Bruce County as a global leader and national center in energy production, research, and next-generation technologies, action is required and time is of the essence. The immediate next steps, as listed on this slide, include, and starting today, require to obtain the approval from Council of this regional innovation strategy, followed by the selection of the Project Innovate Task Force, which will need to commence as soon as possible, and be followed by the mapping and execution of the 8 priority initiatives that we established in the previous sections. We hope this provides you with a clear starting point and a path to an innovative future. Thank you very much for your attention, and I appreciate the opportunity to present today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from committee? Anne?
Thank you for your presentation. A lot of work has gone into it. I think it really boils down to the money. And, you know, it's wonderful that It's just like we've been lobbying for a new high school in Kincardine for years, and, well, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. And so we live in a community full of engineers, whatever, and in our high school, we don't have much in the way of tech and trades, and we've been lobbying for that basically for years. We've ramped it up lately, but I think the key is, and I don't say this just because I have an educational background, but the key is to get our local labor pool started at a much younger age. They have to have those experiences, I believe, starting in elementary school, at least by grade 7 and 8, where we used to have far more, as, we used to have some shops and everything, but with funding being taken away, and our rural funding is kind of strange in places. If you don't have a certain letter in your postal code, like Kincardine, we don't have the right postal code for funding, I was told. So there's a lot of things like that, but I believe truly it comes down to getting our education, or we're not going to have enough labor even for, never mind the nuclear industry. The agricultural industry is high-tech now, and I'm getting feedback on them. We want to have economic diversity. For example, superheat, they have said that, worldwide they're 400 or 500, but in Kincardine they're maybe 100, 110. That's the message I'm getting all the time, and yet we don't have the facilities. So I think the key, I'll be just thrilled if the thrust of this is we have to start our own labor pool here, because studies, I think everybody knows, local people will come back. People from Toronto, and over the years I've heard them say, oh, we're just coming here for a couple of years because we've got a job. It's hard to get them here. I'm still hearing it's hard. Some of the nuclear workers with these new companies coming in, I'm hearing, I love it here, but I can't get my family here. I'm trying. So I think the focus, or one of our first focuses, has to be on, let's educate our local students, and they are the ones that come back. All my son's friends, they're back here pretty well, but they were trained locally at start. Bruce Power had a good initiative to get younger people. So I think that just needs to be enhanced. I see that as crucial to the success of all this work you're doing. So that's just my opinion. I'm passionate about that. I think it'll all fall apart unless we can get our local youth trained at an earlier age. Instead of thinking academics and going off to do great things elsewhere, they have to realize the opportunities that are here, but you have to expose them at an early age.
Yeah.
Any further questions or comments from the committee? Warden Eagleson.
I think it's a very interesting document and presentation today, that's for sure, and I want to thank everyone that worked on it, but I guess it's probably, I don't know if it's the right time to bring it up, but you're asking us to stage Bruce County as the head of innovation research for power. I'm extremely disappointed and upset this morning. Like, whatever happened to agriculture and tourism in Bruce County? Am I missing the point here, or Kara, are we going to do an innovation in agriculture? I don't see anybody on that list that was involved in agriculture or federation. And you're bang on about how we got to educate them. They're our Bruce County board, the only agricultural program we got happening in Chesley, and they didn't supply any busing, so that program's in jeopardy. But yes, power in Bruce County is extremely, extremely important, and it has changed the fabric of Bruce County a lot. But where is our support for agriculture? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Warden, and through you, Mr. Chair. When we started this process, we did have quite lengthy conversations with our folks at Deloitte and with our project team that were working on it to ask that very question. And in order to advance the work and get to a place where we had an action plan, we needed to scope the work. And so in response to your question, we still recognize that in Bruce County, our three main industries are agriculture, tourism, and energy. This plan specifically looks at what we can do to innovate and advance the region around the energy sector, which I would say right now is our strategic advantage as a region. And the goal being that if we're able to advance these innovations in this field, it will impact the other areas of our economy as well. So if we can get to a place, we saw those lists of what would it be to win. There was places or topics around talent, resources, sharing, collaboration. All of that will advance the entire region. So if we're able to leverage the advantage we have right now in front of us, I think as a group we acknowledge that it would help in our other areas of the economy as well.
Mitch?
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the presentation today, and I'm very supportive of this project. I think the nuclear industry, we have opportunities here that we've never seen in the County of Bruce before, and I think it's incumbent on this Bruce County Council to move this project forward. Ward and Paul just talking about agriculture, we have 7 acres in the municipality of Kincardine that's expanding with 400 jobs, and that's agricultural based. I know in my municipality we have agriculture, we have obviously is a big part of our community, as is tourism. Our Mennonite community is thriving. We have another building application for more chicken barns and more hog operations that are coming to our municipality. We have developers looking at here in Kinloss. We have a lot going on. I think the county does as a whole. And as for Ann's comments about education, I agree with that. We have to get them started early. But I'm seeing through my real estate background that people are moving here. They want to be here in Bruce County because of what we have to offer. And housing is a big part of it. We're affordable. A lot of people might not agree with that, but the people I discuss in my business, we are cheap in Bruce County, and they will come for that. And so I feel this is a very good project, and I'm behind it 100%, and that's my comments for this morning.
David?
Yes, I agree with much that's been said. Obviously, being someone from agriculture, I agree that there needs to be at some point some focus on agriculture, but this certainly is a good connection or a good start. And tremendous amount of material in here, and I appreciate the work that's been done. I think it's really important as we move forward that we involve as many, I would call them innovators or people that are already in a good place in industry, and if it's energy, that's fine too, but others as well. Because there's a lot of good can come out of their experience.
Yeah, in response to that, I think it's important to note that around the table in development of the strategy, we didn't just have businesses that were related to the energy or nuclear field. We did broaden the scope of the consultation, and that was done with intent, because if you'll remember, the purpose behind starting Project Innovate was to diversify the economy, to support our existing small, medium enterprises, and to help them grow. While at the same time attracting more. So it was really important to make sure that we included those folks around the table. And from those sessions that we have had, I do believe there's an acknowledgement that if we can accomplish some of the things that are laid out here in this strategy, that it will benefit all, including other industries, but also within our strategic advantage. Yeah.
Further comment, even from agriculture. We have some in our communities that are producing energy, that are farming, and that's it's a good opportunity to include those as well.
Further questions, comments? Just a comment. like you, Mitch, I think this is an opportunity that comes along very rarely for Bruce County, or for any municipality that we see, that the work that's going to be happening here around Bruce Power and energy in general. And I don't think this particular initiative is excluding any other part of our economy. This is focused on something, and I think it can grow, and I think it's an opportunity, like I say, that we really need to take a hold of. One of the things I liked about your timelines, there's some pretty ambitious timelines there in the first 6 months and the 12 months, and I think really when you get some people that are focused on this, that can be a great advantage to you, because they want to see some success early and can focus on your goals and build on it. So I honestly think they're pretty ambitious, but I think they're worth the challenge, and I admire you for setting those goals, and I guess it's up to the rest of us now to make sure that we meet those targets and put the resources to it that we can see it be successful. So I know there's no further questions. There's a staff report also, and I don't know, Kara, if you wanted to summarize it, and there's a recommendation, and we'll take the Sorry, did I miss the CAO? I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
That's okay, Mr. Chair. I did want to take a moment just before Kara goes through the report to recognize those in the gallery, the individuals from the cross-representation, whether it's John Larson and Mary Jane Bushell from Larson and Shaw, or Ron Oberth from OCNI, and Raj Verma from SNC, and I believe Scott popped in, Scott from BWXT. These individuals really committed their heart and soul and gave very, very thoughtful and thorough feedback in helping us to develop the strategy. And this will serve as a tool and a guiding document for us to support the additional work that you have supported with Bruce Power in relation to the Innovation Center, the Nuclear Innovation Center. So I do think that the group do need to be recognized along with staff for their work.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank everyone for your part and for coming down today. It's a beautiful day, and I'm sure there's things you probably would like to be doing outside.
Okay, so in front of us we have a staff report, and Daryl did much of the heavy lifting to discuss the details behind the Project Innovate strategy that's in front of you today. I'll just draw your attention to the timelines that were presented in November of last year and updated in February this year, that we are on the place right now. We've got the action plan in front of us as to what do our next steps look like, and we're at the place now where we can start to move into phase 4, which is around implementation. A couple of the things that I just wanted to highlight for committee before they consider moving forward on the recommendation is that governing thought about to build a diverse collaboration network that advances Bruce County as a global leader and national center in energy production, research, and next generation technologies. And you saw through Daryl's presentation that all of those choices that were made along the way in this work really led to those priority initiatives. And there were 8 priority initiatives that were highlighted. And I just wanted to draw your attention to in my language, I say the final 2, which are the long-term goals. So that would be number 7 and 8. So number 7 looks at creating a center for collaboration, skilled training facilities, and programs. So this is a centralized model to expand skill development, training programs, as well as a center of collaboration and thought leadership. So I think this really pulls on Councillor Edie's comment about how do we start to advance that as a region. And even more so, the ultimate goal probably is to move to number 8, which titled Attracting Top Talent. It should probably be broadened to growing, fostering, and attracting top talent. But how in Bruce County do we become a region where we support our industries by making sure that they have the talent in order to succeed? And that goes for all of our industries. So really, when we define what does success look like, it would be moving to a place where those 2 long-term goals have been advanced. And I'll just conclude by saying again that the energy sector, while right now is our strategic advantage, This started from a place where our long-term goal was to diversify the economy in Bruce County and create opportunities for business development with our existing businesses and hopefully through growing more business opportunities. So staff have recommended to committee that the Project Innovate strategy they consider for adoption as the framework to advance the economic development and innovation journey in Bruce County, and that we look at moving to the next phase in deployment, which is around the establishment of a task force. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. There is a staff recommendation there. It's moved by Mitch and seconded by David. Is there any further discussion on the staff report or the presentation? If not, then I'll call the question. All in favor of the recommendation? That's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. So the next item on the agenda then is an information item. It's for the Bruce GPS project update. And again, are you going to present?
Mark is.
And I believe Mark is going to present. Bruce is going to present.
Thanks. And this is an information report, just trying to update you.
Can you turn your mic on, please, Bruce? Sorry.
Lost it? Okay, sorry. The particular part of the project that I'd like to just give you a brief update on is the engagement, public engagement process that we are undertaking. We have a draft plan in place or that we have received from our consultant, Lura Consulting. We have looked at that and met with them a couple of times, and so this process, as I mentioned, is a public engagement process that we hope to generate broad stakeholder engagement toward developing a guiding direction for Bruce County over the next 20 years. The following tasks are underway or have been completed. So again, last month you heard that there was a project, the project had been initiated with the purpose and timelines. Lura Consulting, as I mentioned, has drafted an engagement plan and is preparing a digital hub for online engagement, which will allow people to contact us through an online platform to provide comments, ask questions, and so on. Lura and staff here are planning a kickoff event, and it says in the report for early August. We have now tried to focus a bit, and we would like council, if they would, to pencil in August 15th in your agendas and try to be available for that kickoff event, which will likely occur in the evening of August 15th. That's tentative, so it may change and the time may change slightly, but if you could just pencil that in, that way you won't miss the date. We now have sort of settled on a logo and tagline that will be used sort of as a marketing a tool to try to identify the project with a logo and use this logo throughout it so that people have an understanding of what we're doing, and when we're reaching out to them that this is going to be related to the engagement that we are undertaking, and make it recognizable in that way as a special project. Similar in some ways to what was done with the Bruce 150th anniversary project, where there was a logo that identified that and people clearly understood what it was about and recognized it. The project goal, of course, is helping to create a direction and find an integrated path for Bruce County into the future. In looking at the logo itself, the GPS in the logo is a multicolor, is done in several colors, 3 colors, and there are arrows there that seem to point in various different directions. If I could sort of focus in on some of that and give you an explanation of how this was developed, the various colors of the letters can somehow imply that there are different stakeholders involved with different goals and objectives. The arrows seem to point in various different directions, perhaps without any real sense of what that's about. But if you'll notice that the arrow on the G and the S actually point at the P in the center, and then the P shows one direction upward, indicating that we are collecting, in some ways indicating that we intend to collect from various stakeholders their goals and objectives and funnel those through and try to address all of those concerns and so on and move in one direction to the future. So that's sort of the symbology in the logo. And of course, the exploring our way forward picks up on the explorer emphasis that's part of our Bruce brand, and the rest of it sort of explains what the end goal is that we are moving together collaboratively into the future for Bruce County. We have a number of milestones and so on. I mentioned the kickoff event that we are hoping to hold on the 15th. We are also planning and hoping to have a workshop with council following the Planning and Development Committee on August 9th. That would involve 2.5 or 3 hours time, potentially, facilitated by our consultant to talk about and discuss again some of the things that are important from the council perspective as we move forward in the engagement. And that essentially is the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Any questions of Bruce? Or Nicholson?
Chair Mike and Bruce, as you're aware, I know absolutely nothing about logos. I've demonstrated that in the past, but I am prepared to say this is awesome. Great work. Thank you.
My comment, and you're probably going to get sick of hearing this, but I know we started all this from some recommendations from StratCorp. Some very specific recommendations about provincial policy statement and land use planning process. And I think this is starting to grow the scope, which I don't mind, but let's not forget where we started on this path and what we, and I think there were some very specific recommendations in there about provincial policy statement and interpreting them and rating policy so that and I think we've seen it manifest in some of the decisions and recommendations. We've seen, so I just keep reminding you, let's not lose focus on that part of it, because I think it's a big part of it. If you want to speak, go ahead, Bruce.
On that point, there's the Bruce Lens aspect of the project that hasn't been lost. We still plan to try to bring together a tool, essentially, that we would review applications using and to address that earlier concern that council had. So it is part of the project, but we are going to reach out broadly to the community and stakeholders at this time just to validate what we know or think we know and try to reveal anything that may have been missed so that we get it right.
Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate it. So, no.
Bruce, could you explain Bruce Lens to me, please?
Not entirely. I guess certainly we understand from the work that was done previously the overall or overarching sense of what it's about. I think it's I guess in my mind, it would be a tool that allows us to consider the policies where there's flexibility to put them to use in a way that meets the needs of Bruce County, perhaps in a preferred fashion over what may have been done sort of as a more straightforward and direct interpretation. So there is some flexibility in policies, obviously, and it's understanding where we want to position ourselves on those. And I think that the Bruce lens, in my mind at least, would be the tool that would give us that understanding and direction.
I like your explanation of that in the term flexibility, and I'm just not convinced that in a lot of cases there may be much flexibility. That's my only concern.
If I might, I made my suggestion. I suspect this new government will be taking delegations at AMO, and I think it would be a good opportunity to meet the new Minister of Municipal Affairs and articulate where we are on this and how we got there, and say, we're some advice and just to exchange some ideas. And I think it would be a great idea to meet the minister and say, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what we see our constraints are coming from the provincial policy statement and provincial staff, and be very blunt with them about.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So if there is an opportunity, I would suggest that we ask for a delegation, and it would be great if Bruce could come down and support us there, or somebody from CARE or somebody come down and support us if we do get that meeting. If you want to go to Ottawa, I don't know.
Maybe just as a further point, Mr. Chair, this is on our mind as we're developing and working through this process, that there may be legislative changes that could also affect how we do things in the future, and we're trying to at least be aware and follow what happens over the next months.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Bruce. Ann.
Just so I'm clear, so LURA's purpose is more specific to planning issues and guiding directions for Bruce County over the next 20 years. I just want to make sure I've got the right overall picture. Like it's, it's just more related to some of the planning issues we've had and where we need flexibility. It's not a Bruce lens on everything. When you talk about Bruce lens, it's, yes, seeing the Bruce lens for planning issues. My beef is always like, why can't you have 50-acre farms and things? It doesn't extend to like our tourism and our other projects, and it's more focusing on that type of thing. That's or is it broader than that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think initially it will be broader than that. We would like to use the opportunity when we're engaging with the public to sort of get some of those things, if they're important to the public, to have those provided to us. What we'll be able to address in the Bruce lens or in the future policies of our official plan may only be a portion of what we actually gather in terms of information. The initial, I can tell you that there are survey questions and things that we are already thinking about for phase one, and they are very high-level questions about the future of Bruce County, not necessarily just planning and development. So we expect that there will be a broad range of issues that are discussed in comments provided to us, and those things can be provided to the other groups and divisions in our structure to make sure that information is passed along and captured.
So it's more like an update to the strategic plan and gathering information again for an overall strategic plan, and then focus on planning issues as well.
We're aware that there will be a strategic planning process that will be undertaken in 2019, I suppose, and certainly the information that we're gathering can be shared with everyone to make sure that all those processes are informed by it. We're not drilling down into the planning issues and so on at this point in time. That will eventually occur as we go through the process, but stage one, or the first phase, is really a much broader look, and we're hoping to use the information we gather in phase one to start to focus in stages 2 and 3 with things that are perhaps more related to planning, but initially we'll be gathering on a range of different topics.
And so the county councillors will be involved in, that's what's coming up in August then?
On August 9th, we've planned that kickoff, or not kickoff, but the county council workshop, and we'll be workshopping with various other stakeholders, including local staff and councils.
I think the CAO has a comment. Do you want to comment, Kelly?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, just for clarity for all of committee, this will not replace the strategic plan initiative of 2019. So the general inquiry through the stakeholders on the high level items that Bruce has referenced is to ultimately provide fabric in establishing the updated official plan. So just to reassure everyone that this isn't going to replace what you wish to see in 2019 of a regional and ultimately organizational corporate strategic plan.
Thank you.
Well, it's simply an update of our official plan. It's an update of our
Okay, no further questions. Then the next item is act on recommendation, and there's a recommendation that in accordance with the procedural bylaw, staff be authorized and directed to give effect to the actions of the Planning Development Committee in respect to all resolutions passed during the July 12, 2018 meeting. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Dave, second by Robert. All in favor? That's carried. That's the end of our agenda. Our next meeting will be August 9th, 2018, and a motion to adjourn. Sorry. Yep, go ahead. Just before we adjourn, go ahead.
If I could, I'm just going back one into this, the first agenda item, and it's the task force. How do we go about choosing a task force, or what's your plan on?
So we're jumping right back, so I'll just get my mind to go back there with us a little bit.
I'll
So
wait.
through you.
I'll wait for a while. I'm fine with that.
So through you, Mr. Chair, in the last part of that report, there was sort of the 3 steps that they had outlined that we would think through in order to execute the task force. And so I think between Kelly and myself, we'll start to think through what does that look like, and we'll be bringing back something that highlights how that will move forward. But right now, we've got a framework on how we would move that task force piece forward.
Okay.
It's not a who right yet.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Chair, the one part that we've learned on a number of our visits, in particular the visit that we had in Ottawa in February, is to when you formulate your steering committee, to ensure that you approach it from the perspective of sector versus individual corporation or organization or non-government agency. So to Kara's point, we will be bringing back for your consideration a sector-driven definition of what we think that committee should be.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and listening to us and seeing the presentation, and thank you for your support on all of this. So is there any further comments? Did I get a mover and a seconder, Darlene, for the motion to adjourn? Then I need a mover and a seconder. Paul and Mitch, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.